You wake up one morning and your stomach is on fire, sharp, twisting pain, low on your right side. In your world right now, you'd call a doctor, take a pill, maybe go to a hospital, and have it fixed in an afternoon. Appendicitis, something that would have killed you slowly and painfully over days. Now, take away the hospital, take away the doctor, take away the pill. You're 50,000 years ago, lying on a bed of leaves next to a fire, and there is nothing modern medicine has ever invented standing between you and death. No antibiotics, no surgery, no painkillers stronger than chewing on bark. So, how did anyone survive infection, injury, or illness for hundreds of thousands of years before medicine, as we know it, even existed? The answer is stranger and more resourceful than you'd think. Let's start with the obvious problem. The human body breaks constantly. Broken bones from falls, infected wounds from hunting, parasites from bad water, childbirth complications, diseases we don't even have names for anymore. Without antibiotics, a simple cut could kill you in a week. Without painkillers, a broken leg meant screaming through the pain for days. And yet, the fossil record shows something remarkable. Skeletons with healed fractures, skulls with surgical holes that closed over and grew back bone, people who survived injuries that should have been fatal. In 1991, hikers in the Alps found a body frozen in ice for over 5,000 years. Ötzi, the Iceman. When researchers examined him, they found something unexpected. Tattoos placed directly over joints that showed signs of arthritis and degeneration, in the exact spots modern acupuncture targets for pain relief. Whoever tattooed Ötzi wasn't decorating him. They were treating him. This wasn't guesswork. This was accumulated medical knowledge, passed down and applied with precision. And it goes back even further. At a site in France, archaeologists found a Neanderthal skull dating back roughly 36,000 years, with clear evidence of a skull surgery called trepanation, a hole deliberately cut into the bone. The edges of the hole show healing, meaning the person survived the procedure and lived for years afterward. Whoever performed that surgery understood which parts of the skull could be safely opened, how to avoid killing the patient, and how to keep the wound from getting infected. That's not primitive. That's applied anatomy. So where did this knowledge come from? Plants. Long before anyone understood chemistry or bacteria, ancient humans figured out through trial, error, and careful observation which plants healed and which plants killed. Willow bark, chewed or brewed into tea, contains a compound close to what we now call aspirin. It reduces fever and pain. Ancient humans across multiple continents independently discovered this same plant did the same thing, without ever comparing notes. Yarrow, a common flowering plant, has natural properties that help blood clot and wounds close, and archaeological sites show it packed directly into injuries. Honey, one of the only substances on Earth that doesn't spoil, was smeared onto open wounds because it created an environment hostile to bacteria. We now know honey actually has natural antimicrobial properties. They didn't know the word bacteria. They just knew what worked, and what worked got remembered. This knowledge wasn't scattered luck. It was systematic. Every group of hunter-gatherers ever studied, from the Amazon to the Kalahari to the Arctic, has an extensive pharmacology. Dozens or even hundreds of plants used for specific ailments, passed down through generations by memory alone. A healer in a community wasn't guessing. They had a mental library built from centuries of observed cause and effect, refined and corrected every single generation. Then there's the wound problem. Infection was the real killer, not the injury itself. Ancient humans figured out, without microscopes, that heat could clean a wound. Cauterizing a cut with a heated stone or blade stopped bleeding and killed whatever was multiplying inside it. They figured out that certain tree resins, when packed into a wound, sealed it from air and dirt, functioning almost like a primitive antiseptic bandage. Charcoal, made from burnt wood, was used to absorb toxins from insect bites and poisoning, a use so effective that activated charcoal is still used in emergency rooms today for the exact same purpose. Pain management existed too. Certain mushrooms and plant extracts had numbing properties, used before setting a broken bone. Alcohol, fermented from fruit or grain, dulled pain enough to get through the worst of a procedure. None of it was pleasant. None of it was guaranteed. But it was real medicine, built entirely from observation and memory instead of laboratories. But the biggest weapon ancient humans had wasn't a plant or a procedure. It was each other. In Shanidar Cave in Iraq, researchers found a Neanderthal skeleton who had been blind in one eye, missing part of an arm, and severely disabled, yet lived for years after the injuries that caused it. He could not have hunted. He could not have defended himself. His group fed him, protected him, and kept him alive anyway, not because he was useful, but because they cared. That single skeleton rewrote what scientists believed about how compassionate early humans actually were. Community was medicine. If you got sick, someone brought you water. If you couldn't walk, someone carried you. If you were in pain, someone sat with you so you weren't alone. There were no hospitals, but there was constant care, and in a world without antibiotics, simply being kept warm, hydrated, and fed while your own immune system fought an infection was often the difference between life and death, and knowledge itself was medicine. Every healer who survived past a certain age became a walking encyclopedia, and that knowledge got transferred before they died, usually to a younger apprentice who watched, memorized, and eventually took over. Oral tradition meant nothing was written down, but everything was remembered, tested again, and refined generation after generation. Mistakes were fatal, but they were also lessons, and those lessons compounded over tens of thousands of years into a working system of medicine that kept an entire species alive long enough to eventually invent the microscope. Of course, they lost people. Infant mortality was brutal. Life expectancy was short, not because people didn't reach old age, but because so many died young from things we can now cure in an afternoon. Infections that seem trivial today could spread and kill within days. Childbirth killed both mothers and infants at rates modern medicine has almost completely eliminated. This wasn't a hidden golden age of health. It was survival built on hard-won knowledge, applied under constant risk, with no guarantee it would work. But here's what's remarkable. None of it required literacy. None of it required chemistry labs or germ theory. It required paying attention, testing what helped, remembering what killed, and passing all of it down with total reliability for hundreds of centuries. Every single plant remedy still used by traditional healers today, every surgical technique rediscovered by modern archaeology, every antiseptic trick your grandmother still swears by, all of it traces back to people who had no instruments, no textbooks, and no margin for error. We think of medicine as something invented in a lab, but medicine actually started around a fire, with someone pressing yarrow into a wound, someone else memorizing which mushrooms stopped the pain, and a whole community deciding that a person who could no longer hunt was still worth keeping alive. Long before medicine had a name, humans were already practicing it, one hard lesson at a time.